Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through stacks of information, find those key nuggets of knowledge, and lay them out for you so you stay informed without feeling buried.
And today we're really diving deep into, well, a pretty complex and fast-moving world, digital assets.
Absolutely. We're going to touch on everything from some pretty radical shifts in government policy all the way to the very personal side of things, digital identity, biometric data, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for this one, we've got insights from sources like Galaxy's Crypto Policy Under Trump report, a timeline they call the Crypto Blitz, analyses on digital asset mergers.
Plus, important discussions from the Gates Foundation and Identity Week on digital IDs and biometrics. Big topics.
Definitely.
So our mission today: unpack the huge policy changes in crypto just in the first half of 2025. Look at how personal finances and political power are getting kind of tangled up.
And crucially, explore the big ethical questions, the privacy considerations around our digital selves.
It is a lot, but stick with us. This is where it gets, well, really interesting. Let's kick off with this major shift in the U.S. First half of 2025, a really dramatic change in U.S. crypto policy, right? Under the second Trump administration.
Oh, absolutely. A total pivot. They went from this, enforcement-heavy approach
Right.
to openly saying, we want the U.S. to be the world's crypto capital, really pushing for innovation.
It happened fast?
Incredibly fast. Just 3 days after the inauguration, January 23rd, 2025, boom, an executive order.
And what did that first one do?
Well, it basically wiped the slate clean,
Mm-hmm.
rescinded the previous Biden admin crypto policies, set up a new group, the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets, the PWG,
Okay.
directed agencies to get moving on new crypto regulations, and here's a big one, explicitly banned the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, a CBDC.
Wow, an outright ban. Interesting. And that wasn't the only EO?
Nope. Second one followed pretty quick, March 6th. This one set up a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. What does that entail?
It's unique. It's only made up of Bitcoin seized from criminal or civil forfeitures. And crucially, the government can't sell it. Treasury and Commerce actually have to figure out budget-neutral ways to get more of it.
Budget-neutral ways to acquire more Bitcoin for a reserve they can't sell. That's a statement.
It really is. And they also set up a separate U.S. digital asset stockpile for other cryptos from forfeitures, but no new purchases allowed for that one. So clearly favoring Bitcoin.
And the scale. How much are we talking about?
Well, estimates as of March 2025 put the U.S. as the largest known stateholder of Bitcoin, around 200,000 BTC. It's a significant position globally.
Okay, so the White House was busy. What about Congress? Were they on board with this shift?
Remarkably active, and largely bipartisan, actually. On April 10th, Congress passed a resolution, Trump signed it, formally killing that controversial IRS broker rule.
Ah, the broker rule. Remind us what that covered.
It would force a lot of players. DeFi exchanges, custodial platforms, even certain wallet providers, crypto kiosks, payment processors to report transactions for tax purposes, form 1099-DA.
And killing it was bipartisan.
Yeah, and the way they did it matters. They used the Congressional Review Act, the CRA.
Which means?
It means the rule's not just gone, it's erased. The IRS can't just issue a substantially similar rule down the line without brand new legislation from Congress.
So that's a pretty definitive stop.
For now, yes. Though, it's important to note, centralized exchanges that actually hold your crypto for you, they still have their reporting requirements. That hasn't changed.
Got it. So the CRA is a powerful stuff, but Congress didn't stop there, right? There's the Genius Act.
Right, the Genius Act. That stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. Rolls right off the tongue, eh?
Huh? Not quite. But sounds important. What does it do?
It's major. Passed the Senate mid-June, signed into law in July, strong bipartisan support again.
Yeah.
It basically creates the first real federal rulebook for payment stablecoins.
Okay, so what kind of rules are we talking about for these stablecoin issuers?
Pretty clear mandates. They have to maintain one-to-one backing with U.S. dollars and short-term liquid assets.
Makes sense.
They have to be transparent, disclose redemption policies, publish monthly reports on their reserves, have solid risk management.
And legally, how are they defined? Securities, commodities.
Crucially, the Act defines payment stablecoins as non-securities, but they are still subject to the Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering rules. So trying to thread that needle between innovation and, preventing illicit use.
Interesting. So stablecoins get their own framework. What about the rest of the crypto market structure? Did Congress tackle that too?
They did with the Clarity Act.
Yeah.
That's the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025. passed the House in July, again with broad bipartisan support.
Okay, clarity. What's its main focus?
It gives a lot more power to the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. It defines many digital assets explicitly as digital commodities. It means they, along with payment stablecoins under the Genius Act, are specifically excluded from the Securities Act's definition of a security. That's a big clarification for the industry.
Okay, so potentially less SEC oversight for many assets, more CFTC. But you mentioned a catch.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the bill is totally silent on decentralized finance, DeFi.
Huh.
Why leave that out?
Good question. It could be too complex, too contentious. Whatever the reason, that silence might be a real sticking point when it gets to the Senate. Raises big questions about how DeFi fits into this new picture.
Right. That seems like a major piece to leave undefined. Okay, so we have EOs, new laws.
Yeah.
What about the regulators themselves, the agencies? The SEC, for instance, must have shifted under the new chairman, Paul Atkins.
Oh, dramatically. A complete U-turn from the Gary Gensler era, the whole regulating by enforcement thing.
Which had targeted big names like Coinbase, Binance.
Exactly. Now, under Atkins, they've set up a crypto task force, the CTF. Commissioner Hester Pierce is leading it.
Crypto mom, right?
Yeah.
Known for being more industry-friendly.
That's her. And this task force has been busy. Roundtables, meetings, over 169 meetings with industry folks by July 2025. They're actively engaging.
And concrete changes. Big ones. Dismiss the Coinbase case. Exploring a resolution with Justin Sun from Tron. And maybe most significantly, issued this de-scoping guidance.
De-scoping, I mean...
Basically saying certain things are not securities, like meme coins, like regular protocol mining activities, think solo miners, mining pools, and like USD-pegged payment stablecoins, reinforcing the Genius Act.
Wow, that takes a lot off the SEC's plate, potentially.
It does. They also rescinded controversial older policies, like that accounting rule SAB 121, which made custodians list crypto assets as liabilities.
Right, that was unpopular.
And rules that tried to regulate DeFi platforms like traditional stock exchanges. It's a very clear signal. A new sheriff in town, different philosophy.
Okay, so a radical pivot at the SEC. What about the CFTC? You said the Clarity Act gives them more power. How have they adjusted?
Their changes were maybe more subtle, but still important. They pulled back some guidance that used to mean less checking before new crypto derivatives got listed. They also eased up some requirements on derivatives clearing organizations. And they put out a public request for comment on perpetual derivatives.
Which are hugely popular in crypto offshore.
Exactly. And that request quickly led to the first self-certified perpetual futures contract on a U.S. exchange, Bitnomial. That's a big step.
Self-certified, meaning faster approval.
Potentially, yes.
Right.
Less upfront regulatory hurdles. They're even looking into 2047 trading for traditional derivatives markets now, explicitly inspired by how crypto trades constantly.
Sure, so crypto's actually influencing Wall Street's structure now.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
It shows how these ideas are crossing over.
Okay, SEC and CFTC are moving fast. What about the traditional banking regulators? The Fed, OCC, FDIC, were they part of this shift?
Oh, absolutely. They reversed guidance from the Biden era that the crypto industry felt was unfairly targeting them, what they called Operation Choke Point 2.0.
Right, the idea that banks were being pressured behind the scenes not to serve crypto firms.
Exactly. So these regulators removed things like reputational risk assessments related to crypto from their supervision checklists. They also got rid of rules requiring banks to give prior notice before engaging in crypto activities.
So essentially clearing the path for banks.
Pretty much. It basically restores older policies that let national banks and federal savings associations buy, sell, hold crypto, offer custody, use stablecoins for payments, as directed by their customers, of course. The message is clear. Crypto is open for business at the bank.
And the Department of Justice, did their enforcement focus change too?
Quite significantly, there was a memo from Deputy AG Todd Blanche in April. It reoriented the DOJ's priorities.
Towards what?
Towards cases with clear financial harm to people, investors, consumers. Also drug trafficking, organized crime, human trafficking, terrorism, the big stuff.
And away from.
They stated they generally stopped prosecuting purely technical regulatory violations, things like unlicensed money transmitting or registration issues for securities or commodities, unless there was obvious willful intent to commit fraud or another major crime.
That's a big shift in prosecutorial discretion.
Huge. And reflecting this, they disbanded the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team.
Wow. But they're still going after major crime.
Oh, yeah. Interestingly, during this same period, they made their largest ever crypto seizure, $225 million in USDT, the stablecoin Tether, from a money laundering network. So They're still active on serious financial crime, just shifting focus away from purely regulatory breaches without clear harm or intent.
Okay, so it seems like a coordinated effort across the board. Were there other agencies involved too?
Yep, a few others. The Department of Labor, for instance, rescinded that 2022 guidance that warned 401k plans about crypto.
So potentially easier for crypto and retirement plans now.
That seems to be the signal.
Hmm.
And the Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA, told Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to recognize crypto as an eligible asset when people apply for mortgages for borrower reserves, specifically.
Crypto counting towards mortgage reserves.
But
That's mainstream.
it is. And then, circling back, the IRS formally removed that crypto broker tax rule in July, cementing the CRA action from Congress.
So it really is a fundamental shift, isn't it? Not just tweaking rules, but a whole new governmental posture.
Absolutely. It's moving from, let's say, cautious skepticism and enforcement to active encouragement and even strategic positioning, like with the Bitcoin reserve. It's a profound philosophical pivot.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. There's this unique aspect, maybe unprecedented as some sources say, involving President Trump and the connection between, well, public policy and personal finances. Sources like the Wall Street Journal have raised scrutiny about a perceived pay-to-play style, suggesting he clearly understands how crypto money works. We're just reporting what the sources say here, not taking a stance. What does the source material actually show regarding the Trump family's crypto activities during this period?
Well, the timeline is striking. The Trump 40 token, a meme coin on Solana, launched January 21st, 2025, literally the day after the inauguration.
And the Trump organization was involved.
Yes, reports indicate 800 million tokens were allocated to an affiliate.
Yeah.
And Melania Trump launched her own cryptocurrency the day before that, January 20th. So immediate activity.
And the sons, Eric and Don Jr., they've been quite vocal and active too, right?
Very. Eric Trump gave an address late May 2025, expressing pretty strong feelings, saying he hated traditional finance being weaponized, wanting to see some of the big banks go extinct.
Strong words, promoting crypto as the alternative.
Explicitly, calling it cheaper, faster, safer, and more transparent. And this aligns with their business ventures. Eric is co-founder and chief strategy officer of American Bitcoin, a mining company. Don Jr. is also involved.
And that company is going public.
Announced plans in May 2025 to merge with Griffin Digital Mining. This followed an earlier partnership in March with another miner, Hut 8, which contributed its specialized mining hardware, its ASICs, for a big stake, 80%, in a new subsidiary.
So direct involvement in the mining infrastructure. And there's another venture, World Liberty Financial.
Yes, that's another Trump family crypto venture. It secured a massive $2 billion investment from a state-backed firm in Abu Dhabi in early May 2025.
$2 billion, that's serious capital. What's their plan?
They announced plans back in March 2025 to launch their own stablecoin, pegged to the dollar, called USD1, fully backed by U.S. Treasuries and cash equivalents, they say.
A family-linked stablecoin, backed by foreign state investment. Okay. Any other related activities mentioned?
Yeah, a company called GD Culture Group announced plans to buy $300 million worth of Bitcoin and the Trump token. And there were reports of private receptions for top Trump investors, with some apparently receiving very expensive $100,000 crypto-themed Trump-branded watches.
Okay, so a lot of direct financial ties and activity happening concurrently with these major policy shifts.
That's what the sources detail, yes. It paints a picture of very intertwined interests.
Now, alongside all this policy and personal venture activity, there's another big trend, the intersection of AI and crypto. What's happening there?
It's booming. We're seeing the rise of so-called AI tokens. These are cryptocurrencies specifically linked to AI projects or ventures.
And their value.
Exploded. The combined market cap went from around $2.7 billion in April 2023 for over $36 billion by May 2025. Huge growth. BitTensor's TAO token, for example, was up over 17% just in the last year leading up to that point.
And this connects to broader digital asset investment trends, mergers, acquisitions.
Definitely. Investor confidence seems to be back after those big bankruptcies in 2022. Venture capital investment in the space hit $4.9 billion just in the first quarter of 2025.
Any standout deals?
Some big ones. Coinbase bought Deribit for $2.9 billion. Kraken bought NinjaTrader for $1.5 billion. Ripple acquired Hit and Road for $1.25 billion. They're aiming to be a major prime broker for crypto.
Prime brokerage, so serving institutional clients.
Exactly. And remember that Abu Dhabi connection. An AI fund based there, MGX, took a $2 billion stake in Binance. The focus for future funding seems to be shifting towards real-world applications of blockchain and integrating with traditional fintech.
Okay, so a lot of money flowing, a lot of consolidation, and this AI crypto link getting stronger. It really underscores how interconnected everything is becoming: policy, finance, technology, even family ventures.
It really does.
And that brings us perfectly to maybe the most personal part of this digital revolution: our identity. Let's talk about digital IDs and biometrics, the promise and the perils. First, the promise. There's this huge global identity gap, right? 850 million people without legal ID.
It's a massive barrier. It locks people out of jobs, education, banking, government support, healthcare. It's a fundamental development challenge, especially for children and women in lower-income countries.
So what's the promising solution being discussed?
A big one is MOSIP, the Modular Open Source Identity Platform. It's basically an open source toolkit for countries to build their own digital ID systems. It's free, customizable, developed in India with funding from the Gates Foundation.
Open source is key there, I imagine. Avoids getting locked into one company's system.
Exactly. It avoids that vendor lock-in. And because it's open, it's spurred this whole ecosystem, over 80 commercial vendors providing related services, which keeps things competitive and drives down costs for governments adopting it.
And is it actually being used? Is it having an impact?
Oh, yeah. Over 90 million people are registered across national rollouts in places like the Philippines, Ethiopia, Morocco. The impact is real.
Can you give an example?
Sure.
Yeah.
In one African country, just by importing existing biometric data into their MOSIP system, they enabled 550,000 students to start receiving government benefits they couldn't access before.
Wow.
And in an Asian country, when they issued bank account numbers alongside the digital ID during registration, 8 million new bank accounts were opened. Huge boost for financial inclusion.
That's incredible impact. How does it handle things like inclusivity and security, especially with diverse populations and, varying tech access?
It's designed to be flexible. It can handle the geography of the Philippines, with its thousands of islands, for example. Big focus on digital privacy and user feedback in the design. And for inclusivity, it supports multiple biometric options, not just fingerprints, but also iris scans, face scans.
Why multiple options?
Because not everyone can use every type. Think of an elderly person with worn fingerprints, or someone with a disability. We heard about a man in Ethiopia whose hands shook too much for a fingerprint scan, but the iris scanner works fine. It prevents exclusion.
Okay, so the potential is clearly enormous. But, and this is a big but, using biometric data comes with serious risks. Let's unpack the perils. First, help us understand the different types of biometric data.
Right. It's useful to think in terms of generations. First generation is the stuff we usually think of: static physical traits like fingerprints, face shape, iris patterns, DNA.
Things that don't really change.
Exactly. Then there's second generation. These are more dynamic behavioral traits: how you type on a keyboard, your gait, your eye movements, even your digital fingerprint, based on how you interact online.
And the collection method is different.
That's a key point. First gen usually requires you to actively participate, put your finger on a scanner, look into a camera. Explicit consent is often involved. But second gen, that can often be collected passively, unobtrusively, even covertly from a distance. The need for explicit consent can get fuzzy.
And that raises huge privacy flags.
Huge. Biometric data is inherently personal, tied to our physical selves. It's incredibly hard to truly anonymize, and it can reveal secondary information you never intended to share: health conditions, family relationships, ethnicity.
Things you might definitely not consent to giving away.
Precisely. There have even been reports, for instance, of children's DNA samples allegedly being collected in hospitals without proper parental authorization. And the scary part: once your biometric data is compromised, you can't just change it like a password. It's you.
That is chilling. So what about misuse, exploitation? Can this data be faked or stolen?
Absolutely. Identity theft is a major risk. Think about deepfakes, AI-generated voices, digitally altered images.
Like that CEO who got scammed by a fake voice call.
Exactly. A UK energy CEO lost $243,000 because of an AI voice mimic of his boss. The FBI reported nearly $60 million lost just in 2020 from job scams using stolen personal and biometric data to impersonate applicants.
And beyond theft, what about bias in the systems themselves?
That's another huge concern. AI and machine learning systems trained on biased data can perpetuate and even amplify those biases. Facial recognition technology, for example, has shown documented racial biases, leading to higher error rates for some groups, potential false identifications.
Which could lead to wrongful accusations.
Potentially.
Hmm.
We've seen reports of facial recognition being used by police to identify protesters. And some countries have allegedly used biometric surveillance programs in ways that discriminate against migrants or minorities, potentially denying them access to essential services like housing.
And then there's this term function creep. What does that mean?
Function creep is when data collected for one specific purpose gets used for something else entirely, often without your knowledge or fresh consent. Like maybe you provide some health data for a fitness app, and later that data is used, perhaps aggregated with other data, to assess your risk for health insurance or even influence decisions about college admissions or job suitability. The original context is lost.
That feels insidious. And are there people who just can't participate in these systems?
Yes, these participation gaps are real. Physical disabilities, missing fingers, eye conditions can prevent providing the required biometric. Medical conditions, even cultural or religious objections. India's Aadhaar system, despite aiming for inclusion, has faced challenges where some elderly or disabled individuals struggled to authenticate, potentially blocking access to vital services like banking or rations.
So the promise of inclusion can sometimes mask new forms of exclusion. It's a real paradox.
It absolutely is.
Let's look at a specific attempt to legislate around some of this. The UK's Online Safety Act, their children's codes, came into force July 25th, 2025. What was the goal there?
The main goal was child protection online. It requires platforms that host content related to pornography, self-harm, or suicide to implement really robust age verification systems.
To keep kids away from harmful stuff?
Right. And also to limit the use of algorithms that might push harmful content towards children. It was seen as a major step.
But how did parents react? Was it seen as a perfect solution?
It was mixed. Sources describe parents feeling both deep relief and growing concern.
Relief and concern. Why the concern?
The dilemma is this. To make age verification effective, you often need very sensitive data, maybe a photo ID scan, facial recognition, possibly even linking to banking data to prove age.
Okay.
So parents, while wanting protection, started worrying about these huge databases being created, linking users, potentially their kids, if they get around it, to accessing things like pornography sites. What if those databases get hacked or misused?
That's a legitimate fear. And were there other problems? Loopholes?
Yes, persistent ones. Kids are savvy. They use VPNs, virtual private networks, to hide their location and bypass age checks. We saw VPN use spike in France, for instance, when they brought in strict age checks.
So technological workarounds.
Exactly. Plus, new harmful websites pop up constantly, clones of old ones. They could slip through the filters. And the algorithms themselves, even if tweaked, can still push extreme or emotionally triggering content without a child even searching for it. Addiction is part of the design for some platforms.
So the lesson from the UK experience seems to be
That legislation is crucial, but it's not a silver bullet. Protecting kids online needs constant effort, collaboration between parents, schools, policymakers, and the tech companies themselves. It's an ongoing process, not a one-time fix.
And zooming out again, how are regulations globally keeping up with biometrics generally? Are other countries ahead of the curve or lagging?
Generally, there seems to be a lag. You look at laws around the world, India's IT Act, rules in the UK, various US states, Japan, South Africa, Brazil. They often offer partial protection for biometric data.
Partial how?
Well, they might not cover those second-generation behavioral biometrics we talked about. Or they might have weaker rules for how the public sector, like government agencies, can use the data compared to private companies. There's often a gap between how fast the tech is moving and how fast the laws can adapt to protect people properly.
Okay, so given that gap, what are experts recommending for better governance? How do we move forward responsibly?
There are several key recommendations. First, get really clear on definitions, explicitly define different types of biometric data, primary physical traits, secondary behavioral ones, and importantly, derived informatics, the insights inferred from the raw data.
So not just the fingerprint, but what the system thinks the fingerprint means about you.
Exactly. Second, standardized privacy-preserving biometric schemes, or PPBS, things like homomorphic encryption.
Homomorphic encryption sounds complex.
It is, but the concept is powerful. It allows computations like matching or verification to be done on biometric data while it's still encrypted, so the raw data itself is never exposed during processing. Huge for privacy.
That sounds incredibly useful. What else?
Clear rules and checkpoints for who can access the data, when and why. Strong legal guarantees allowing individuals to withdraw their consent for data use, not just a collection, but later on. Setting up authorized governing bodies with oversight. And importantly, statutes of limitation rules about how long data can be kept before it must be destroyed. Like the UK's NHS sometimes holds DNA data for 5 years, then destroys it. We need clear time limits.
Right. Building in safeguards and expiry dates. That makes sense. It's about a human rights-centered approach.
That's the core idea, yes. Prioritizing rights and privacy in the design and governance.
Okay, let's shift to the really big picture now, the macro view. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. We mentioned the U.S. ban pursuing one, but what's happening globally?
Globally, the interest is immense. CBDCs, remember, are digital versions of a country's fiat currency, issued and backed by the central bank. Centralized, unlike Bitcoin.
And the appeal?
Potential for efficiency, faster payments, better monetary policy transmission, maybe financial inclusion, though also control, which worries some people.
How widespread is the exploration?
Hugely widespread. 132 countries, representing something like 98% of global GDP, are exploring, developing, or piloting CBDCs.
98%. Wow. Are any actually live?
A few are fully operational, yeah. Jamaica, Nigeria, the Bahamas have launched theirs. And China's ECNY pilot is massive, tested in hundreds of millions of digital wallets already.
What's the forecast? Are we going to see lots more soon?
The Bank for International Settlements, the BIS, predicts about 15 retail CBDCs for public use and 9 wholesale ones for interbank use could be live by 2030. And SWIFT, the existing global financial messaging network, is planning its own network to connect these different CBDC platforms, trying to ensure they can work across borders using existing bank infrastructure.
So the world is largely moving ahead, while the U.S., for now, stays out due to privacy and stability concerns.
That's the current state of play, yes. A very deliberate divergence based on those concerns outlined in that early executive order.
Okay, one more major trend. Real-world asset tokenization, or RWA. This sounds potentially revolutionary. What is it exactly?
It's basically creating a digital token on a blockchain that represents ownership, or a fraction of ownership, in a real-world asset.
Like what kind of assets?
Almost anything, theoretically. Real estate is a big one. Art, bonds, company shares, intellectual property, commodities, anything tangible or intangible that has value.
And why do this? What are the benefits?
Several key ones. Automation, as big smart contracts can handle things like dividend payouts or compliance checks automatically. Traceability blockchain provides a clear, immutable record of ownership. Fractionalization, you can divide an expensive asset, like a building or a famous painting, into smaller, more affordable tokens, opening it up to more investors.
Which increases liquidity, I guess. Makes it easier to trade.
Exactly. Increases liquidity dramatically for assets that are traditionally hard to sell quickly, like real estate or private equity.
Are big financial institutions getting involved in this?
Oh, definitely. BlackRock, the world's biggest asset manager, launched its first tokenized fund, BUIDL, on the Ethereum blockchain in 2024. It tracks U.S. Treasuries, reportedly brought in $240 million in its first week.
$240 million in a week for a tokenized treasury fund. Okay.
And Citigroup is experimenting too, tokenizing assets like private equity funds on a private blockchain. Their goal is 247 transfers, cutting settlement times from days down to minutes. It's all about efficiency and unlocking trapped value.
So what's the market potential here? Are we talking niche or mainstream?
The predictions are huge, starting from maybe $3.3 billion in 2024. Forecasts range up to nearly $13 billion by 2032, but some analysts are way more bullish.
Like how bullish?
Some predict up to $16 trillion worth of real-world assets could be tokenized by 2030. That would be like 10% of global GDP. Another estimate suggests $4 trillion in just real estate tokenization by 2035.
16 trillion. That's transformative, not niche.
If those predictions hold even partially true, yes, it could fundamentally change how we own, manage, and trade almost everything of value. It brings the benefits of digital finance to the physical world.
Okay, as we start to wrap this deep dive up, let's touch on some unfinished business, some lingering questions. We talked about the big U.S. policy push, but hurdles remain, right? Especially for that comprehensive market structure bill in the Senate.
Absolutely. Despite the progress, getting something like the Clarity Act through the Senate won't be easy. There could be fights within parties, between parties.
And that silence on DeFi you mentioned.
That's a big one. How do you regulate something designed to be decentralized? That's a tough question Congress hasn't fully tackled in these bills. Plus, the ongoing scrutiny around the Trump family's crypto ventures could add another layer of political complexity or hesitation for some lawmakers.
And legally, there are still key court cases playing out that could reshape things.
Definitely. Two big ones to watch. There's the criminal case against the developers of Samurai Wallet.
What's the core issue there?
It really tests whether developers of non-custodial software where the user controls their own keys can be held liable as unlicensed money transmitters just for writing and distributing the code. Huge implications for software developers.
And the other one?
The ongoing charges against Roman Storm, co-founder of Tornado Cash, the privacy mixer.
Right, that's been controversial.
Very. That case tests arguments about whether developers can control decentralized protocols after launch, and it touches on fundamental questions about code as free speech. The outcomes of these cases could set major precedents.
And finally, the market itself. It's always volatile, but what's the broader dynamic right now?
Well, you said it, inherently unpredictable. But it's also shown incredible resilience. We're clearly in a bull market phase, or we're in Q2 2025.
Driven by
A lot of it seems fueled by the approval of those spot Bitcoin ETFs in the U.S., which opened the door for massive institutional inflows. And the most recent Bitcoin halving event, which reduces the rate of new Bitcoin creation, also historically correlates with price increases. We saw Bitcoin hit new all-time highs, over $111,000 in Q2 2025. So despite everything, the market finds ways to push forward.
So bringing it all together, what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've covered this truly unprecedented moment, the U.S. government making an aggressive pivot, trying to foster crypto innovation, even holding Bitcoin strategically.
We've seen these powerful digital identity solutions emerging, aiming to lift millions out of poverty, connect them to the global economy. Huge potential there.
But as we dug into, this speed comes with really significant ethical questions, especially around our biometric data, who owns it, who controls it, how is it used, and the ongoing struggle to keep kids safe online in this complex digital world.
So, what stands out most to you from all this? How do you see this convergence playing out? You've got rapidly changing regulations, this blurring line between political power and personal digital wealth, and these fundamental questions about digital identity. How's that going to shape our economy, our society?
And maybe the biggest question, how do we make sure we harness the incredible power of these technologies for good while fiercely protecting basic human rights, privacy, autonomy in a world that seems determined to collect and analyze every bit of data it can?
Definitely something to mull over.
Indeed. Until our next deep dive.